We appreciate everyone for participating, both attending this meeting as well as watching online, paying attention to your city business. If you would, we're going to invite Murray Gossett up to give the invocation. If everyone would please rise and stay standing for the pledges.
Let's pray together. Lord, we thank you for your loving kindness indeed never ceases. Your compassion never fails. They are new each morning. Great is your faithfulness, O Lord. Lord, we can't help but stop and think about our brothers and sisters and folks down in the hill country today. We want to thank you for the first responders and those many folks of different agencies that are caring, serving, searching even as we speak. We want to pray for the families that lost loved ones, little ones, all different ages, families that were vacationing. We want to pray for comfort for those who are left behind. We pray for your strength and your presence to come alongside them. And Lord, we recognize really the most we can do is pray. And we lift them before you and continue to do that. Lord, we recognize that you call people into leadership. We thank you for the city council here. We're grateful for them. We pray for your guidance and direction, that you might give them wisdom. We thank you for the great city that we are a part of. We're grateful, Lord, that boundary lines are drawn for us in pleasant places. We thank you and praise you, O Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. If you guys will join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, guys. Please be seated. All right, it's another beautiful day out there. It's a pretty enough day that we're going to run a pretty meeting for you here today. So we've got some good work to get to here today. It starts by number 5, our announcements. I would like to call to your attention our entire Parks and Rec department, public safety, OEM, everybody that contributed to the 4th of July on the 5th. Independence Day +1, everything that took place over the weekend. Even the fact that the Lord saw fit to kind of do his own fireworks in the sky right behind our City of Amarillo fireworks. So those of you that got to see that, you got to see the city drone show, the fireworks, and then a pretty spectacular lightning show that I think it was OEM that kept it at bay outside of the city limits till about 11 o'clock. Everybody made it safely back to their car. Everybody made it safely home. We enjoyed a wonderful afternoon out there in the park, truly like fun and family and fellowship. And so it was all about freedom, and we celebrate that with you here today. But if you guys would join me in just a round of applause here in this formal meeting for Mr. Michael Kashuba and every person on his team. You know, those parks look better every time I drive by one. We're continuing to do improvements, and it's not just one side of town or one park. He's covering the gamut, and so sometimes you say, let's put money in the budget, but you don't necessarily, you don't say, let's put money in the budget and spend it well. And so, you know, what he said to his staff is let's spend it well. And so everything he's doing over there, we're a fan of, and I think you'll continue to see that third pillar, which is quality of life. And so seated right next to him are our boys in blue. And man, I tell you, we back the blue in this town, and I love that. And we're going to maintain our priority of public safety first. And then we're going to tier into that step 2 priority of all things infrastructure. But hot on its heels is quality of life. And so that's a well-balanced budget that you're seeing worked out over these next 2 years. So thank you, sir. Another announcement I have is just an update on our check registry. So we had said in our previous meeting, give me 2 weeks, I'll have something for you. In looking at the check registry, we were talking about like going back 36 months. We've got 2 different softwares, and do they match up, or how hard is that to do? We want to get this one right. And so I didn't put it up for a discussion item. I just put it on my opportunity to give you an announcement. We'll have it on the schedule for July 22nd. But we want to bring it with the check registry and the ledger so that we can see wire transfers, deposits, and as much valuable data as we can get. And so I know that's what we were pushing for here last. We've got some complications on the logistics and how staff can fulfill that. And we're not trying to go and manually do a bunch of work that should be automated. So we appreciate your patience in letting us figure out how to get that thing automated and get all that information online for you. And then we look forward to all you guys that are our CPAs out there in the community that really will see where all that money's going and how it's being spent. So the harder you look, the better we'll look over the next 2 years, because you'll see things like public safety and Michael Kashuba's department really spending the money where we need to. So thank you. And then, Mr. City Manager, do I have any other announcements from you or the team? Okay. Our all-time favorite part of any meeting is number 6, public comment. And so it's very important to maintain decorum, but at the same time, maintain the full voice of the voter and our citizen. And if we're going to keep our work chart that shows that our citizens are ultimately our boss, then we've got to understand that we work together. None of us truly work for anyone, right? But in this public service, it's our honor and an opportunity for us to work for you. And so we appreciate you making us better and coming here today. I got my clock back, so I'm just letting you know. I've been asking for my 3-minute clock. It makes it hard for me to wave at you or to cut you off. And so we've strayed away from that. We've been letting ourselves get to 4.5 minutes or so. That's okay when you have 3 or 4 speakers. What's hard is when you have a subject that everybody wants to talk on. And so I want to be disciplined in this exercise and ask you guys to honor the time in the chambers, because there'll be a day where it's not just 3 or 4 of us trying to take up 3 minutes, it's 30 or 4 of us and 30 or 40 of us. And so thank you guys for speaking today. I'll hand it over to the city secretary, and when you hear the beep go one time, that's your 30-second mark. And then when you hear the beep go continually, we're going to ask you guys to go ahead and wrap up your comments. Ms. City Secretary.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we're glad that you're here to share them today. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to address City Council regarding posted agenda items or topics related to city policy. Every speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council for public comment and public hearings. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a warning beep will sound to alert you that you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We do have a public hearing today. If you're here to speak on the public hearing, we would ask that you make your comment either during public comment or during the public hearing, but not both, in order to keep accurate minutes. It's your decision at which point you would like to give comment. When you come to the microphone today, please state your name and whether or not you live within Amarillo city limits. If you're speaking to an item not on today's agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act limits how elected officials may respond. They may respond with statements of fact, they may ask your topic be added to a future agenda, or they may refer the matter to the city manager, who can have staff step out and visit with you regarding your topic today. Again, we're grateful that you're here. First up today on public comment is Chris Pittman, and after Chris, on deck will be Michael S. Ford.
I believe I got enough this time, so thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, sir.
The first thing I want to talk about today is, I believe it's item 7E, the bridge. Just want to cast my vote, or not my vote, my support in favor of this. This is building the bridge to our new transportation center, and it's most important. In order to have a successful transit system, we must have good walking, biking systems. So I appreciate that. What I do want to talk about today, however, though, is especially in light of the flooding that's happening down south, Mayor Cole, you're talking about our quality of life and safety, is bioswales. I know that's kind of a weird word, bioswale. It's an engineered system to help capture drainage water. And what I love about this solution is that it's multifaceted. So instead of simply building drains that cost money, these of course cost money as well, but this also helps to beautify our city by creating more green spaces, creating more opportunities for trees. It also, with more green spaces, helps keep our city cooler as we see temperatures rising year over year. So it's another solution or another benefit to this solution. And of course, I'm sure many of you who are familiar with my comments are probably asking, Chris, what does this have to do with bikes? What does this have to do with traffic? By having these in the streets and where they often are built, they're built often along the side of the streets or even in our medians. We have a lot of very wide and plentiful amount of medians. These biosols could go there, and that would naturally help slow traffic down while giving us the benefits of better storm drainage control, as well as I said, better heat island reduction, and many of the other benefits. Simply wanted to share this idea, this concept, in light of all the things that are going on. We continually see flash flooding occurring in our city, and I know that public works and those drainage water systems is a constant topic, so I wanted to share this idea as another tool to put in our tool belt to not just address the flooding, but as well as all the other benefits that go along with it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Okay, Mayor, we can encourage Donnie Hooper to get with you, Mr. Pittman, and we can look at your notes here.
That would be great.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Our next public commenter, Michael S. Ford.
Mike is fine.
We haven't started you yet, sir.
Well, I have one statement to make. I hope you'll let me make the whole entire statement. I've done my best to keep it within 3 minutes, and you've already started the clock. So, Mayor, council members, you know why I'm here. This is not the first time I've raised the election law violations. I've submitted legal notices, formal complaints, record requests, detailed memos citing the election code, the Constitution, Secretary of State guidance, your charter, and the legislature's reaffirmation of Section 67004, the procedure for local canvass. At this point, none of you can claim that you weren't warned. All I've asked, and all the law requires, is this: hold a lawful canvass. Open the sealed returns, tabulate the votes, include early voting, recorded in all the minutes, 1 meeting, 2 hours. It's not hard, but it is, as the Texas Director of Elections has said, an unavoidable duty that this council must perform in public, not your staff behind closed doors. Instead, you let staff draft clarifying resolutions to cover 2 elections that were never lawfully canvassed. You've repeated false claims that 67004 overrides the charter, that your only duty is to accept results, and that sealed returns are optional. None of this is true, and that it never was. Let me be blunt. The city manager and his staff are letting you take the fall to avoid admitting that the truth that the Amarillo hasn't lawfully canvassed an election in over a decade. They're protecting themselves, and you're letting them. You now prepare to sanction your own illegal non-canvasses done in a back room following who knows what procedure and rubber stamped in under 2 minutes, when the law demands that they be done under the scrutiny and sunlight of the public eye. This canvass is not a ceremonial step. It is the final act of democratic integrity, the moment where this council confirms it has handled the people's votes with precision, transparency, and respect, and you've treated it as an inconvenience. And here's the legal reality. You are not legally qualified to be here. Per the Secretary of State, no lawful canvass means no lawful certificate, no lawful oath, and no legal authority. Under Article 16, Section 17 of the Texas Constitution, the prior council still holds office. Every action you take today is void. And if you approve these resolutions today, you will be knowingly violating state law. Texas Election Code 276019 makes it a crime to knowingly alter, waive, or suspend any election procedure mandated by law, like 67004. 276013 makes it a felony to submit false and misleading election records, like the resolutions you're prepared to submit. Penal Code 3710 makes it issuing a false certificate election a third-degree felony. 3711 makes impersonating a public official, which you're doing right now, without legal authority, a third-degree felony. You do not have to go down this path. You can fix it today. Reconvene the prior council, hold a proper public meeting with a quorum to canvass both elections, open the sealed precinct returns, tabulate the votes by the precinct and polling location, include early voting reports, record everything in the minutes, then and only then the certificates, recite
Thank
the
you,
oaths, That's the law, that's the remedy, and that's what the public deserves. You took an oath to
We
uphold.
appreciate it, sir.
That you took an oath to
Yes,
uphold
sir.
the Constitution and the laws of this state, and this is the moment
Thank you,
that
Mr.
oath
Ford.
matters. And
Thank you,
thank you
Mr.
for cutting
Ford.
me off, Mr.
We
Stanley.
appreciate it, sir.
Appropriate.
Thank you. So we appreciate you speaking, sir. We appreciate you trying to adhere to the 3-minute time frame.
Mayor,
Thank you.
that concludes
Are you-
everyone that signed up for
No, sir.
public
Addressing
comment
me?
today.
No, sir, I'm not addressing you.
You
I just
just
thanked
did.
you. No, sir, please sit down.
You just addressed me. If you're going to address me, at least have the courtesy before I go sit down.
Mr. Ford, thank you once again for speaking. And thank you for returning to your seat. Do I have anyone else here who'd like to offer public comment? Mr. Fisher, please come forward.
So we only have, my name's Mike Fisher, I live in the city limits, Amarillo. We only have 2 people, I think, Mr. Stanley. Why not give us a little bit more time? I mean, it's pretty important what we're doing. I think you agree with me, rules for everyone, follow the rules. And I'm going to reiterate what I said before. Everybody's probably watching the news. Somebody finally got arrested for election fraud. And I'm telling you guys, you're listening to McWilliams over here and the Underwood Law Firm, somebody's going to go to jail. I said it before. And the bankers and the attorneys are going to go back to work the next day. And maybe you guys are going to go to jail. And all they're going to do is find the next guy to do their vetting. I'm here to talk about the same thing Mr. Ford was talking about. I own a medical software company. Sometimes I don't look like it. I don't choose to look the role or look the part. I consider myself an expert in computers, software. I own a medical software company for 20 years. And I probably spent about $200,000 in the last 6 months just on security. And if you're dependent on any documents that were just emailed to you, if they weren't handed to you in an envelope, from what I understand, it's supposed to be from her, and the voter administrator is supposed to hand her sealed envelopes, and you open those sealed envelopes. But if you're using emails are not secure at all, because there's no requirement. It's not like the post office where you can get federally prosecuted for opening up somebody's email. Somebody on the inside here or at the voter administrator's office or somebody in between that's intercepting emails, just like they can take an envelope, open it up, doctor whatever's in it, put it back in the envelope, and send it on its way. They can do the exact same thing with emails. And that's why, like with HIPAA laws, with my medical software, it's not allowed. You guys, they're not required to go by half the laws that I have to go by with my medical software, but yet, from what I understand, we're dependent on emails, and that's not a good thing. I mean, I can do it. I could change this, and with emails, it's undetected. Like they can change it. With an envelope, you can look and you can say whose DNA is on this envelope. How many times has this been opened? You might be able to figure that out. But with an email, it can be undetectable. And so if we're dependent on those records that were emailed to anyone, I think we need to start over, and we need to go by that motto of rules for everyone. We have to go by the rules. You're sending people out with a ruler to measure people's lawns and make sure they're tall enough. Why aren't we going by that same letter of the law every step? We should be going by that with this canvassing. And I think we deserve that. We deserve to follow the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate you. Do I have anyone else here who would like to offer public comment today? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public comment, move on to our next section. Before we jump into our consent agenda, we're a little light up here. We are missing Councilman Tips, who is out this week. That was expected. We're also missing Councilman Reed, who has a family member that had surgery this morning, and he was trying to attend. He may still attend the meeting, but if we run a fairly efficient one, I doubt you'll see him here today. So appreciate those two for all they do, and just wanted to give an explanation as to why we only had 3 of us here today. Moving into item number 7, or section 7, our consent agenda. Council, do I have anything that needs to be pulled off of the consent agenda? Then I would request a motion. Hit her on the back. You have to turn it on. There you go.
Technical difficulties.
Good,
I
now.
move that we approve the consent agenda as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second with no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. 3-0 vote. We're going to move into Section 8, our discussion items. Council, do I have anything that's on discussion or non-consent that you have any need for further review before we move into item 8B? No. Okay. Item 8B. Do we have Mr. Harder here? Or are we going to go? Yep. Alan, you're up. Mr. Harder's going to go over our Durapatchers and some of the road work that you're seeing take place out there on your city streets.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I appreciate it. Alan Harder, Public Works Director. I'm here to give you an overview of our Durapatcher pothole patch trucks since they have commenced operations. Wrong button. My apologies. So as I said, the purpose is to give you an overview of those trucks since we began using them in streets and alleys. I'm going to cover a background of how they came to be, how we've implemented them, and our next steps moving forward with these trucks. So background, last year, there have been many presentations about this, but I want to keep in mind that not everybody's had the benefit of hearing this information. Mr. Hooper and I were tasked with researching some ways that we might improve efficiencies in our street division, specifically in patching potholes. And so we investigated, found a county in in West Texas that was using these Durapatcher trucks. Actually took a trip there and got to see them in action, came back and presented those results to City Council and received funding and approval to purchase 3 of them in August of last year. We also purchased 3 new emulsion storage tanks. Emulsion's a very important part of the patching process. I'll talk about that in a minute. And we needed a reliable way to store that material warm so that it can be offloaded into trucks and used in the streets. That was approved in November of 2024, and thanks to our facilities department for actually managing the construction of those tanks. It was a very good project, and we're very happy to have them. Here's a picture of what the Durapatcher trucks look like. Like I said, I'm going to repeat some things a lot of you heard, but just so everybody knows. What this truck does, you see sticking off the front is what we call a snorkel. When the truck comes upon a pothole, that snorkel extends out. It uses compressed air to clean loose material out of the hole. It then blows asphalt emulsion, which is just asphalt mixed with a water to make it a little bit more flowable, into the hole to provide a tack coat. It then inserts rock, which is also mixed with emulsion, and then a little bit of dry rock on top of that to finish the hole. It drives over it, and then it leaves. The road's open to traffic immediately. What's not shown in this picture, one of the things that we're doing in addition to using the truck is we have a pickup truck that's pulling an aero board behind it. That's there for 2 reasons. One is safety. It makes it more visible to traffic. Hey, you need to move over. We're operating here. And it's also for any quality control issues that we might have, excess loose rock, they can stop and pick that up. And I'll talk a little bit about how that's working when I get into observations. And here's a picture of the 3 storage tanks. This is at the service center site just southeast of downtown. Those are the 3 storage tanks. We're currently using 1 of them. You can see it's the closest tank there. We have the hose run off into a smaller tank just so that anything that leaks out of that hose where we fill up our trucks doesn't leak out on that nice new concrete pad. It's in a contained area, easy for us to clean up. So a little bit of history on the implementation. We received the trucks earlier this year, began operator training in March, and continued that through April. We had City Council demonstrations in April 2025. Mr. Hooper gave a presentation at the end of April about how that went. I went back and watched that and found the comment about his reserving judgment on performance kind of humorous. I know everybody got some smiles out of that, but we're very happy with that demonstration. But actually, since we performed that, found some things that we were able to do to actually improve efficiencies, adjusting our ratios of rock and oil to ensure we're getting a good product. And actually had found out that the oil that we had some flaws with it. When we returned it back to the vendor, they refunded us our cost for that, and we got new oil that's
Just
working
in a
very
very
well.
professional clarifying of the comment earlier, you are stating for the record that most of my performance was due to an issue with the mixture of the oil viscosity that you just cited. Is that correct?
I would say that your performance was in spite of an issue with the oil viscosity. You still managed to do a great job, Mayor.
I think that's very well put in the record for all of time,
Absolutely.
memorialized in the minutes. Thank you.
It is.
Please continue.
All right, glad that I could clarify that for you. Anyway, Mr. Hooper gave a presentation about that, and then our street department commenced operations with the Durapatchers in May of this year. They started for 1 week in alleys. We were extremely pleased with the results, and so we put them on streets the very next week. Here's a picture of one of the trucks operating in the alleys during that first week, just kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. And I want to show you the results of some of the patches that we've actually done in streets. One of the things I want to point out, these are pretty deceptive. I mean, when I say deceptive, they don't stand out a lot. You kind of got to know what you're looking for to see them. This is an area where we had some cracking on a street where the cracks came together, some material had come out. It was a pothole. And so our truck's able to come in, fill that in with minimal disturbance, didn't have to take out a large area to make the repair. You can actually see 2 of them in this picture. They're the kind of round discolored areas. That's what the patch looks like after it's set for a few weeks and been driven over. Very smooth. I drove over it multiple times. There are times where if you're paying attention, you can feel it. It's humped up a little bit, but pretty minimal disturbance. Here's one on a street that had been sealed previously. That's what the black is, but you can see the patch is that lighter colored area in the middle. Again, very smooth, very level. Didn't have to remove a large area to make that patch. And then one more close up where cracks had come together to create a pothole. Able to come in, patch that up within a matter of just a couple of minutes and move on. So since implementation, we've completed over 2,000 patches on street potholes and over 700 in alleys. These are numbers through last Thursday before we entered the 4th of July holiday. So extremely happy with the productivity that we're seeing with these. We were able to get a lot of potholes done in a very short amount of time compared to traditional patch trucks. So far, the record for one day was 146 potholes patched in one day. With traditional patch trucks, when we're running 2, which is how many we're typically running when we may do between 20 to 30 potholes in one day. So very happy with the efficiencies we're seeing and very happy with the quality that we're seeing. My observations are generally, and really of our street department as well, is that patches are performing well. They're not noticeably moving. The patches that I took pictures of last week, it was a 90-degree plus day. I got out on the patch, pushed my foot down into it, and it didn't depress at all. That was a concern I had, is on a hot day, how is it going to hold up? It was holding up very well. The other observation we have is that the follow trucks were a great idea. Very necessary for safety. It's a very visible lights flashing to let people know that there's work going on. We actually have had one of the air boards was run into about 3 weeks ago. Somebody was texting and driving and ran into the back of one of the air boards. Luckily, very minimal damage to our air board, no injuries to anybody. But it really highlighted the fact that even with a giant flashing light, sometimes people aren't paying attention. That really highlights the importance of these trucks. It doesn't require people to be out in the back working, so much safer than our traditional patch trucks. So next steps for the time being, we're going to continue using the follow trucks for safety. We've had very few issues with quality. There are some loose rocks, but not much more than if we had left the pothole there and it continued to come apart. And so we're going to use the follow trucks for safety. We're getting quotes right now for truck-mounted crash attenuators, and I apologize, I meant to include a picture of that. What that is you see it on TxDOT equipment or a lot of equipment working on the highway. It's basically a crash barrier, like might go on the end of a bridge guardrail, that sticks out behind the truck. So that if a car runs into the back of it, it protects the truck, but more importantly, it protects the people that are driving that run into it. So we're getting quotes for that now to install on the back of these trucks. We think just make a much safer operation. At that point, when those are installed, we'll be able to move away from the follow trucks, which will improve our efficiencies too, because now those employees can go and do other things. And then the last thing that we're going to continue doing is monitoring the completed patches. To me, we won't know a full story until we go through one full winter cycle, where we get the change from the extreme highs to the extreme colds and back, and see how those patches hold up. With what we saw last summer, though, very optimistic that they'll hold up well. Very optimistic about that. So far, very pleased with our efficiencies, very appreciative of the funding to purchase these trucks, and think they're having a very positive impact on our streets. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions, council?
So have you been out long enough? So when people call in potholes, do we know what our backlog is and how many hours, days, weeks of backlog do we have? And has this helped us be able to address those more?
Yeah, absolutely. We really don't operate with very much backlog of potholes because they're the type of things that need to be addressed quickly when they're reported. That doesn't mean that there aren't potholes out there that haven't been reported that may have been there for a while. I never want people to say, well, that's not true because I've had a pothole for 2 weeks. Well, if it's not reported and no one in the street department knows it, it might be there. But we didn't have much of a backlog. We did have some areas that that needed work, that needed attention, and it was kind of timely. We got a large rain event right after we started the operation of these trucks. That's the type of thing that creates a lot of potholes. And so we were able to get on it quickly. And the benefit wasn't getting through the backlog, it was addressing the potholes that came up quickly within a day or two instead of, say, within a week or two.
Good, thank you.
So I might have beat around the bush a little bit. I hope I answered
No,
your
I just know,
question.
I mean, for example, I know in the city marshal's office, we've done a lot of things to cut down the number of yards and overgrown things. We've greatly reduced that and being able to, I think we went from having 2,000 requests for, people to have their, people that were taking care of their property down to about 500 now. And so, but I just wondered how many requests that we get and are we able to stay on top of those similarly for potholes?
And we are, yes, sir.
Is there a size limitation on the pothole? I mean, how big can you?
There really isn't. We're typically doing things, potholes for us is really anything under about 1 square yard, so 3 feet by 3 feet wide. Much wider than that, I'd be hesitant to use this material on it. It doesn't mean we couldn't, but it might have some flex, and it wouldn't provide a good level surface going out over a large area. So typically within 1 square yard. Anything over that is, we consider that what we call a minor patch, where we're gonna cut that out. It's something we could do with our traditional patch truck, but not a hard and fast rule, but typically anything 1 square yard and under.
So I think the long-term benefit, you're seeing it, but we as the public are just now going to see it because the snow event and the rain event, what they really do is they take that alligator surface, they wash some of that material that's loose out of those, and then you line up several potholes together and they leapfrog left and right. And so just with traffic over a 2-week period of time, once you kick that material out, then you degrade that surface, and what happens is the subgrade underneath it starts to fail. And so when that subgrade fails, because that moisture comes back in, a lot of times we get moisture, we get everything in 2 weeks and then we don't see it for 6 months, right? So once that surface is eroded to that level, now what we're into is major repairs, large repairs. And then those are the ones that are really costly. We're having to close down a full lane and pave a quarter mile or whatever. We've seen that now we have enough areas around town where even the pothole Durapatcher truck is going to help. It'll sustain the life of that roadway for a little bit, but that roadway is already to a point to where we have to continue to attack this infrastructure need and put those larger projects in so that we're doing mill and overlay, Cape Seal, whatever else. And so we're excited about the additional projects that you've got going out, but then really we see it on the front end of a little bit of repair in a consistent manner will exponentially benefit the lifetime of some of those roads where we just aren't seeing that, and the rest of the nation doesn't necessarily get subjugated to the extreme elements that we have here. We go from super hot to real cold and all sorts of different things that, you've got expansion, contraction, multiple layers here where we're really up against it. And if we had maintained all of these roads from 2016, 2017 on, we would still need to have this type of a plan. We just wouldn't necessarily have to play as much catch up. So what the public is going to see is your ability to catch up. And we're thankful that, Donnie and your team thought, let's buy 3 of them, and let's get them to work out there. So I encourage you guys to continue. And then my only question would be 311. I don't know if that has gone away, if we still do it. At one point we were going to be doing photos to 311. And so I still take quite a few emails of, hey, we've got pothole here or this section or my alley. And that 311 is the way you would get to that report. Do you mind speaking to that? And whoever on staff would like to just let us know if that's still something that's functioning well?
Yeah, we can actually have Jennifer give a 311 update, but 311 is functioning, and they've been absorbing departments as they go along and bring them online. But that is absolutely, if you call the city 3000 number, you'll reach the 311 operators, and they can schedule services.
Do you know, Rich, did we ever get to the point to where we could text a photo, you know?
Not yet. We're not there yet, but we're
Okay.
getting there.
So I think if we did have an update on that, being able to communicate with the public, because now, once we get these operational, they're fully functional, you guys, the other thing I've seen is like, you've just gotten much better in the training and those individuals that are running those trucks. You can see where, oh, that's probably one we did a month ago when we were learning, and these are the ones that look really good, and I can't tell when I drive across it. But I think another way, because none of council right now, I think, is directing people to 311. And ideally, we would like to. We would like to be resourcing that. Let me handle this for you. But a better way to communicate with your city would be this technology mechanism and lever you can pull. So thank you. Great presentation. Love what you're doing out there, and enjoy driving across it.
Mayor, I appreciate that. And the one thing I'm remiss about not mentioning was the equipment operators and the supervisors that make it happen. I've spoken to a few of them since we implemented this, especially Mr. Lundergren. I'll mention him by name because he was one of the ones that took part in the demonstration. He is very much bought into what this equipment can do, and he is getting a lot better at it every time he uses it. So thanks for that.
That's great. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you for the presentation. That'll move us on to item 8C, Mayor's Delegate to the Amarillo Metropolitan Planning Organization Board. So your MPO is a board that exists outside of your city limits. It encompasses Amarillo Canyon, Lake Tanglewood, Timber Creek area, everything that we're trying to handle, and work alongside Ports to Plains that runs all the way from Eagle Pass, I think, all the way up to Canada. And so there's a lot of growth going on here. You got to have a good MPO, you got to have a good MPO director, and you've got to have strong TxDOT representatives. And we've got some of the best engineers and TxDOT reps that we could have here. So we really appreciate Kit Black and Blair Johnson and all their work. They work hand in hand with this. It also provides, like for Chris, it provides another opportunity for, if you really want to talk about a bike lane, or you really need to address a bridge issue or something that's transportation, you've got an entire meeting that's set up to take that kind of input, put yourself in that master plan, and these are the 5-year, 10-year plans. And so the funding is there for the state of Texas. The truth is, the community that gets the funding is the one that's the best prepared, has the plan ready, and has the ability to implement it the soonest. And so what we've seen is hundreds of millions of dollars that have come here through our MPO and TxDOT and the collaboration with the City of Canyon and our county officials and everyone around. So that's my sales pitch. So by the way, if I can entice anybody to sit on this very illustrious board. We have Councilman Sherlin that no longer will serve on that board. That board seat requires an active councilman. And so we will decide today whether we will have maybe a voluntold individual or a volunteer individual. And so what I would be asking before appointing somebody would be if anybody here today would like to serve on that board. No pressure.
I think we have 2 members on the other side that would be more than willing to serve on the board, but.
I was getting a strong sense that it was
That's the rule.
probably
If you
going
don't
to
show
come.
up, you get named to the board, I think.
It was probably going to come from this side. So here's my recommendation. And so since he's not here, he'll hear about all this from you guys before I talk to him. But we will visit and just make sure he's agreeable. And if not, then I'll appoint somebody. But I'm going to ask Councilman Tips to work on this because he's been pretty instrumental in some of the signage that he's wanting to get put out, these monuments that welcome you to the city of Amarillo, and some of the other things that he's taken on as an initiative for some of the beautification. And he had a fantastic idea in maybe some of the monies that TxDOT's spending to beautify the highways and how the city could potentially collaborate. so that I-40 is not just a good thoroughfare, it's a pretty thoroughfare too. We want you, when you drive into Amarillo, to know that, this is a pretty community full of pretty people, and hospitality is something that we're really representing here, and we want you to feel welcome. So, Councilman Tips, staff, if I could ask you to put that in whatever formal request, I am requesting that he would serve, and if he is agreeable, then I'm appointing him to that position. And then, Mr. Munoz, I see you out there. If you'll respond to that email once you get an approval from him, and add him to your list, and we'll get him onboarded and whatever else you need to get him updated for. Okay? Hey, I appreciate you guys letting me give a good sales pitch there. And the delegatory authority from Councilman Simpson is well recognized. Any requests for future agenda items from the council?
I've got one, Mayor. I would like to request that the city council receive a briefing from staff on the most current version of the City of Amarillo governance and ends policies.
We will get that on. Let me ask, before we put that on as a briefing for this, Mr. City Manager, I know that I've referenced, our priorities. You guys are, underwater in budget and review and continuing to push that forward. We've got a budget workshop that we're anticipating end of July, 1st of August. I have every intention in having a workshop. This has always fit really well in a workshop, and we can tackle several items. Be glad to do it on council, on a regular meeting, if councilman wants it done prior to that. But then if we're okay with getting that in, I would ask maybe staff to go through that governance and ends document, or get him all of the documentation so he could really review it, see what he agrees with, disagrees with, what's outdated, old. Some of the great questions that come from you is why are we doing that? You'll read it for the first time and say, where does that come from? Well, the truth is most of the time we don't know. It's just in there, we follow it. So I would hope to put that up on a workshop. But would like to give you the information, and then if you see something in there that's time sensitive, then just direct it back to staff. Glad to have it on the agenda. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I do have one item that I'd like to place on a future agenda as well. I've been kind of actually working with the city staff to develop, and this would just be for discussion at the next conversation, but the law requires us, both our ordinances and state law require 2 readings on various things that we have to approve, such as ordinances, such as zoning, those types of things. I really like 2 readings because, again, if somebody misses the first reading, in the public, or we need more time, there's always a second reading for that. What I asked city staff to look at is, okay, can we apply that to everything that we do, or most things that we do, particularly if they are public facing? And I think staff has worked a little bit on developing something that maybe we could consider. I think it mostly applies to resolutions. Currently, we're not required to have 2 readings on resolutions, but I'd like to maybe bring that up for a conversation. Now, budget items are things that we do have, we approve in the budget, but there's always a second reading for that. So I just think, in the lieu of transparency, and we've done a lot of things in the past with the future agenda items, those types of things, but I think the possibility of looking at having 2 readings on items that particularly impact the public, so that it's just not a one and done on something that's significant to the public, might be something that I'd like for us to look at and consider. There are exceptions that we need. There's certain state laws that require only 1 meeting, so that you can't have, that's got to be improved in one. And we don't want to slow down business, but if it's something that affects the public, I think this is something that I'd like just for us to have a conversation about, and see if it's something that we would be willing to consider.
Glad to put that on there for you. Thank you for going ahead and getting it to staff, and when it's ready, we'll have a discussion. Anything else? Okay, that'll move us into our non-consent. Everybody good to keep charging forward? Anybody need a recess? It's only 3:45. Item 9A is a public hearing. We have Mr. Brassfield coming up here to walk us into a potential airport lease agreement.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Drew Brassfield, Assistant Director of Planning. This item is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to consider designating certain areas as reinvestment zone number 25 for commercial and industrial tax abatement. So designating a reinvestment zone is a step in the property tax abatement process under Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. As you know, local governments often use tax abatements to attract new industry, commercial businesses, or to assist with business retention and expansion projects. Designation of an area as a reinvestment zone is required before the city council can entertain a request for a tax abatement. And these are to not be confused with tax increment reinvestment zones under Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code. Under 312, these reinvestment zones afford property owners the ability to request a tax reduction or abatement on that specific piece of property, whereas under a tax increment reinvestment zone, they capture the growth of the tax increment, or they capture the growth of property tax generated to be reinvested back into the entire zone. So before the council can consider the zone, it has to be preceded by a public hearing, which is what we're doing today, with 7 days written notice of the hearing being provided to the presiding officers of the other taxing entities. It also has to have a notice presented in the newspaper of general circulation, and those were both completed at the end of June. The council must make findings also that the improvements sought in the zone are feasible and practical and would benefit the zone after the expiration of the tax abatement agreement if one is provided. In this case, the criteria met is that with the designation of the zone, it is reasonably likely as a result of the designation to contribute to the retention or expansion of primary employment. And this is one of those situations where the city must take the lead. We've got to establish the reinvestment zone before the other taxing entities would have the opportunity to entertain a request for their participation in any future tax abatement requests. So the project that is prompting this request is about a 3.5 acre piece of property located at 10801 Baker Street out in the vicinity of the airport. The reason for creating this zone is to provide the council with the option to offer an economic development incentive to a prospective manufacturing facility. In this case, it's International Aerospace Coatings who has requested this reinvestment zone because they're anticipating constructing a new aircraft hangar complex with the related site and utility improvements, plus some equipment purchases at a cost above $12 million. Currently, the tax abatement presentation is slated to appear in front of the council on July 22nd, as well as the airport lease. In this case, the resolution, or the ordinance, pardon me, is being requested for 5 years with the option to renew it. And in these cases, tax abatements could be approved for up to 10 years. So this is a map of the area that's under consideration today. It's kind of set off to the northeast of the main airport facility, and I would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have before opening the public hearing.
Questions, council? No.
So just what we're looking at approving here, we have the hearing today, is just the ability to have this tool. Doesn't necessarily commit to us. Any commitment to that would be after this becomes an ordinance and then a request is made, and like you say, there's a plan for that in the future.
Correct. There's no risk in establishing it as a reinvestment zone. Even if no tax abatement is approved, that reinvestment zone could sit there and remain as an option for any future projects.
Okay. And here, what area is actually included in this? Just the area in the blue?
Yes, sir. It's just about 3.5 acres.
Okay.
Just north of their existing facility.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's procedural today, but then the negotiated piece is something that I'd want our constituents to listen to. I thought the previous council did a fantastic job of taking what had been a traditional 10-year, 100% tax abatement request and looking at the options of how does that benefit, both the taxpayer and the resources we're trying to provide for the community, along with the incentive that draws that economic entity to town. And what's the ROI? That's the bottom line. I mean, we're making business decisions. I thought previous council did a really good job of putting a tier system in. It went 90, 80, 70, 60 over 10 years. I also think that, a 10-year 50% tax abatement, or if you were to do 100% for 5, like depending on how you want to look at it, it all comes down to the numbers. And so that's a future discussion that we want to hear from you guys. I think this discussion is us doing a good job of putting our business out in front and saying, this is exactly the location that we look to entice and bring those economic entities and developers to. And we're entertaining putting that zone in place so that we could then enter into that negotiation for that rebate or for that incentive. I don't know that I necessarily have any questions. I just wanted to make sure we were talking about like today's purpose. So, Mr. Brassfield, thank you. At this time, I'm going to open a public hearing, see if I've got anyone that would like to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close that public hearing, and I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 8201 as presented.
Second?
I have a motion and a second on the item. All in favor of 9A, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with a 3-0 vote. Moving right along to item 9B, temporary staffing for Civic Center. Bo Folks, do we have you coming up for that one, sir?
Actually, I'll be covering that, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Rich. I've got Bo listed. Mr. Gagnon, go right ahead.
Yep, so I actually requested this be pulled off the agenda last council because the funding source was incorrect. It was listed as general fund, when actually the revenue for this comes specifically from Civic Center event revenue and from hotel occupancy tax, and therefore the description was also incorrect. So the lion's share of this comes directly from events. The purpose of this item is for temporary staffing for load in, load out, set up, and tear down of events at the Civic Center. So, for example, we might have one event that needs 25 people for move in, set up, and tear down. We need them for 3 days. That comes out of event revenue. We do use it occasionally, particularly around like the holiday season when our rooms are all booked and they're back-to-back day-to-day. We may staff augment just to get those rooms flipped. The amount that has come out of hot tax, in 2022, it was like 80K. In 2023, we dropped that to 46, and we should be below that again this year, primarily because we've done some reorganization and our retention of staff over at the Civic Center is much better than it used to be since we've done so.
Questions for Mr. Gagnon?
So you say the usage for this is really event-specific, that is, and we would be covering the cost through, what we're charging for people to use the room. It's just that we may not have enough staff to flip a room or an area, and that we hire extra staff to do that?
That's exactly right. So you think about someone like WRCA come in, we have to hire a lot of people to help get moved in, set up, and then also to clean up afterwards, and get those rooms ready for the next event. And it wouldn't make sense to hire 50 people, to sit and wait between events. So we just cover that out of the event revenue.
Yeah. And do you know what the history, I know this has a maximum of 250, and we're not going to spend any money unless it's directly correlated to an event, but do we know kind of a history of how much we've kind of had to spend on that?
That was really our high watermark, and that was, I think that was the year of COVID. Believe it or not, or the year before, that was our high watermark was just a tick under 250, but we've been staying around 200 a year.
And then I know recently we passed another temporary staffing arrangement with another firm. Why are we using a different firm for this one versus using under that? Is it a different type of?
Different labor set. So this is largely manual labor. So more I hate to say unskilled, but more unskilled labor that we would be using for move in, clean up, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman, anything further? Okay. Yeah, just to kind of reiterate, I know there's an ROI on hiring full-time in order to handle those events when they come in, and then sometimes you're overstaffed and you spend the money just in having people you don't need. So thank you for the update on that. Council, with no further questions on that, would entertain a motion on 9B.
I move to approve the temporary staffing services contract for the Civic Center as presented.
A second.
Got a motion and a second on 9B. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Real quick, I'm taking just a few text messages from citizens saying that YouTube streaming is down, and I know I also took a text from city manager. We are still streaming on our .gov, but just putting that out there in case anybody is watching. But do we know, will the YouTube be back up, or is it just off?
We're working with our vendor. Right now, there's a technical issue on their side. We will continue to stream on the website, and as soon as that comes up, we'll actually post the entire meeting to
Okay.
YouTube.
So meeting would be posted
Correct.
after this. You can go back and
Correct.
rewind all those other
Right.
features.
It's
Great.
actually why we use 2 channels to stream, just in case there is a technical issue, we have redundancy, and then we can always post the full meeting to whichever side may be having a technical issue.
Real good. Thank you for letting me ask that question. Item 9C, consider an award for street maintenance project construction, $3.8 million worth of good work going out there. Mr. Danforth, how you doing today?
Doing well, Mayor Stanley. Mayor, Council, excited to bring this one to you. Staff has been working really hard to push this and get this accelerated. It's a priority for all of us. So the 23-24 street maintenance, the contractor is scheduled to continue working on that. Due to weather issues, they did not finish that contract, so they rolled into that, and they're finishing that up. That will finish up the 7.6 contract from the previous 23-24 year. We wanted to make that clear that that was still going on and still under contract, and we did not see an escalation in price request on that. The 24-25 street maintenance project, I wanted to give you some aerials of this. This is actually broken out into several quarters of the city so that you can see that this work is taking place in multiple areas, both in the green and the blue highlighted areas. There again, we're seeing it there at Hastings on the north side, seeing Grand and Folsom. The project includes the application of a Cape Seal product on 5.7 miles of arterial roadways located throughout the city and microsurfacing on 3.4 miles of arterial roadways located throughout the city. The streets were chosen using the pavement condition study that was provided to the city, and the current one is to be received, I believe, this fall, correct? This fall. And so we will continue to use that means and methods as well as judgments from Public Works to go out and do street assessments in conjunction with that study. So we're talking mill and overlay in this scenario. Mill and overlay, this contract is not in front of you for approval yet, but we did want to highlight where that work is going to be taking place coming forward. We have received the bids on that, and that should be coming here shortly. So once again, we broke it down into quarters so that you could see the areas that would be impacted. This project includes the application of mill and overlay product on 7.4 miles of arterial roadways throughout the city. The streets were once again chosen by the same means and methods going forward. And so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but like I said, this is coming forward, and it's all relevant as far as the streets that we are addressing and the reason why we're addressing those particular streets. We're excited about this. We anticipate, and we're very aware of Donnie's presentation to council, to where we were going to roll this through every year. We were a little bit behind the mark on this year, but that's been corrected. We anticipate these projects going out to bid in January and February of next year so that we have a chance to get more bidders into the system and move forward faster on these projects. In other words, we would like to be doing a lot of this work right now instead of waiting until the 1st of August to be starting them. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Questions, council? Well, I do want to talk about like how long from ask to asphalt, right? So I think if we look back over the last 3-4 years, we're sitting here saying, guys, we've missed the mark. We'd really like to. But what I'm seeing is we said, hey, we think $10-12 million is a good idea. Let's build this financial mechanism. You guys went and ran it. You needed to do some due diligence to make sure that we weren't getting out over our skis. But once you came back and you put together this program, you got support from council, and now we're seeing this go out to the tune of around 9 miles of Cape Seal or microsurfacing, whichever one we've got there. And then you're seeing Osage now in your sites. It's targeted for early next year. So what are you seeing now? And if you would give me the decency of comparing it to where it was, I need a benchmark.
Sure. And are you talking about the timing of the entire?
Yeah, ask to asphalt, because it feels like about 3 or 4 months ago, we were getting you to do this first presentation, and now we're letting a bid out.
Yes, sir. And if you recall, during that presentation, one of the things we talked about was the fact that we were behind the 8 ball trying to get caught back up. And last year, I think this bid went out somewhere around August. So we knew that we were going to probably be June, July, that we could get this out. And then by next year, we would be on that circular track to where we would start getting our assessment done, which is already targeted for the fall instead of late winter. So I think by next year, just as Jerry mentioned, you're going to see everything come in line with that full 12-month schedule that we gave you. I think we've made great strides. Jerry's been over in that department now for 5 weeks, something like that, and has really has put the plow to the field, if you would. And they're getting a lot of things turned out rather quickly over there. So if that answers your question, we knew coming into this year that we were going to be a little bit behind, but at least we're still getting it out during the paving season. We think we're going to be able to get this project completed by the end of the paving season this year, combined with the one that we're finishing up from last year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think what I feel may not be fact, but it felt like for 6 or 7 years, we just slow turning gears here. And then just over this last year, what I feel is that you guys are taking that direction. You're figuring out how much we can buy for that amount of money. Where is the best value in microsurfacing, Cape Seal, large, small repairs, everything. And you've got a multi-pronged, approach and attack on this. And then it sure feels like momentum. And like next year, I think you're set up for more success, and that we're going to see a little daylight at the end of this tunnel before long.
Yes, and sorry, my microphone wasn't charged up, I guess. You're seeing it exactly correct. And if you remember, a big piece of that is the council funding that we didn't have in place. So once we started receiving that funding and we knew that there was a plan moving forward, we have really put the pedal to the metal, if you would. Me and Jerry talk about that all the time, that we really got to take this opportunity and move forward as quickly as we can. So I think you're seeing it correctly. I think we were slow turning. I think you see that correctly as well. There were so many projects in the pipeline. There were so many things going on that we've now focused, and at least we have a lot of programs and some direction going to where we know exactly where we should be, and we're trying to hit those target marks of dates. Does that make sense? I mean, we know that by the end of September, we need to have these projects complete so we can start our new assessment, so that we can roll into the next spring. And now that we have those dart boards to throw at, we're throwing at them pretty hard.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I mean, you're answering what I'm asking. So thank you for the presentation. I know it's an award. I don't have any particular questions on anything, any particular streets, other than if a citizen did want to see, this 3.8, where did it go again, and what are you doing on all that? Do you have like a scope of work and a list of those online?
Actually, those maps will be online as the construction moves forward. The contractors are required to notify people in those areas that they're working, but the general public can get on and look at the street maintenance program and actually highlights those areas as they're moving forward, so they can pull it up and see if their area is affected and what their timelines are expected to be.
And
I think
Jared,
that's
can I add
great.
something to that too, that I think, council, would be important that y'all know this too, that Mr. Sherlin, I believe, during that last meeting that we had, requested that we have some dashboards put in place. One thing I'm very proud of what CP&D is doing right now, as they've gone into our software that we are using, an e-builder, and they are completely building out that system with all the capital projects, starting with the Georgia Street project. And it's worth the brag on that, because once they get those capital projects entered into the system, there's going to be a dashboard that's going to be associated on our website where anybody can go in and look at the progress, look at the money that's being spent, look at how much money is left in that project, whether it was a bond project or not. All of that information is going to be readily available for the public, along with the maps and the locations of where these projects are at. So I think that's something that's worth bragging about his department and what they're doing over there as well. That's a big improvement that helps us with that timeliness of getting these projects done, because there's accountability associated with that too, when you're putting all that, the stats and data out there for everyone to see.
Man, I love it. We got a good construction guy in charge over there. Man, Tim Reed and David Prescott just showed up, and they're already whipping this thing into shape. You know, can't wait to see what happens next. So, thank you, sir. Would entertain a motion on item 9C.
I move that we award 9C.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Anybody need a break, or y'all want to finish? I'm going to keep going. All right. Item 9D. Floyd, you're up on this one, change order, but I definitely want to lead the conversation in change order within the budget. So,
Yes.
yes, sir.
So, and I'll cover that in a minute. But Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present this change order. So yes, change order number 2 to the automated meter infrastructure project. That's what's up for consideration. First off, I wanted to cover the status of the project. That's going very well. 72% complete of the total 79,000 meters. You can see here 57,000, and this is a little hard to see on the graph to the bottom, but that is each individual meter reading section as they are moving forward. So you can see that there's a better graphic here on this one. The blue is what's completed, the red is in progress, and this is where you see how we progressed across the city on the project, and it's going very well. Okay, so within budget, the original project funding was $29.5 million from the Texas Water Development Board, $1 million grant, $28.5 million loan, 0% interest. That was where we were able to layer the city's bond rating with the Texas Water Development bond rating, and with that subsidy, we wound up with a 0% interest. The program does have the state and federal requirements that you would anticipate with a state and federal funded program. Okay. The original contract was in March of 2022 with the change order number 1 later in 2022 for $23 million. Texas Water Development Board fund commitment at this time is $23 million. A little over $23,600,000. Remember, there is a local match portion, so we have a commitment to spend local funds at a certain level along with that. Total loan funding available was $28.5 million. So remaining today in the project related to this contract is $4.8 million in the Texas Water Development Board funding. With that, change order 2 proposes 3,300 metal 3/4 inch meters or brass, 2,000 metal 1 inch meters, assorted large meters, radio transmitters, labor, tariffs. But the cost increase anticipated for this change order is $2.7 million. It would change the contract order for up to $26.5 million as noted there. The Texas Water Development Board funding that would remain in the project is $2.1 million. From there, I just wanted to cover that the reason these 3,000 or 5,000 meters weren't included in the original contract was because we had to go through the process of approval in 2022 with the data that we had at the time. So you had additional meters in the system. We also have some change-out meters from existing Neptune. The original contract called for those to be retrofitted with devices to make them compatible, and staff is recommending that we change those to the actual meters. The metal meter component of this is a result of some considerations for freezing meters and those concerns that were brought up. But then we're also adding the transmitters, and there's some minor large meters. But that's the crux of what this change order involves. The reason we couldn't include them originally is you can't get approval from the Texas Water Development Board to commit funding for something that's unknown, and this mostly was a growth component of the new meters. And so there will be a final change order related to this when the final change order late in the year is target date. We're not changing the completion date of December 31st of 2025 that was included in change order number 1. So we are on target to complete on that time frame, subject to some weather considerations. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions, council?
What have we, I mean, so far, so now we're 75% rolled out. What have we learned? Have there been any challenges? Did the transition, because I've not heard really many complaints from citizens that I'm aware of that there's been any problem with billing or those types of things. I mean,
Yes.
what have we learned kind of, I guess, through the rollout of this?
Well, first off, that the team has done a great job, whether that was the state, local, and then city staff has done a great job. So we've minimized complaints with that system. There's been a few, but nothing that you would expect was with 57,000 meters changed out. So the process that we identified going into it was identified, has addressed citizens' concerns tremendously on the project. Some of the other things that we've learned is that that the system changeover is welcomed by our citizens because they're ultimately going to get better service and the ability to see their water use in unusual circumstances. We have, when the module comes on with the billing system after the December timeframe of completion for this, then there will be a direct communication to customers when they set that up. So I think our community is very understanding for us, and that's one thing that we found in the installation of this.
So the ability for people to monitor their water consumption in real time will come, that will come after December 31st?
Yes.
Okay.
The module will be in the billing system, and that's anticipated then. Right now, our billing office can get that information, and that's where they can contact, and we've had very much successful incidences where unusual use was identified, and we were able to contact residents or customers, and they were able to address it before they receive a bill a month later, a huge bill. So it's had a very positive impact on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I got a couple.
Yes, sir.
Original contract 22.5. Then we have the change order of 1.2 plus this one of 2.7, assuming it's all approved. You kind of have a left to pay on there. You said you were expecting another change order to come to complete work that you currently have that you know you need to increase in your scope.
There will be a final change order adjusting final quantities.
Okay.
So this is not a project that has a specific identified, this meter needs this meter box changed. What we did is we included a lot of the repairs and get the meter box and all the other necessary things such that we complete the project. We don't have to go back and replace a meter box. So those contract items are estimates at this point, and these refine it to a very close estimate, but there will be a final change order. Now, when there's funding left, either we can change order something to this project to spend the remaining city TWB funds, or identify and get approval for another specific related project. Mm-hmm. And staff will work on that and bring that to you probably in December, January, of which project we think that the TWB will approve for those funds.
That's great. And I guess the math may have included it, but it didn't look like it on the presentation. So the 1 million was a grant?
Yes, it had a $1 million grant. I had that on the first slide.
Right.
For the 29.5 million, but the presentation relates to the 28.5
Right.
million loan. The reason I do that is because under the Texas Water Development Board accounting for their system, the $1 million grant is a separate program. It's already spent, it's already done, that was completed, and they operate with a $28.5 million loan on their side, so we've matched that in our accounting.
So the 1 million grant was already spent?
Yeah, that was the first million out the door, so to speak, on the project. So we got the benefit of the grant to start with. Plus the 0% interest that you see here. Basically, this is a meter replacement program.
Okay. And then curious on this, because it's a TWDB, are we allowed to earn interest on that money even though it's a loan to us at a 0%?
Some of their programs have interest available. I'd have to look at the specific loan. I don't recall on this one. Do you, Laura?
Yes, I believe this one does allow us to accrue interest on it, but then it has to be used back to something that's approved through the project.
An approved project.
Yeah.
So this 2.1 million on the bottom of this could be higher with interest added back.
And did they loan the full amount several years ago? This was approved back in 20 or 21 maybe?
The contract was approved in 2022, so the loan was approved prior to that. Application started in 2019. So about 2021 is when it was approved.
Yeah, so I think what we would hope is that staff either has already or can identify the interest earnings on this amount of money, the grant money, and then run the total on what was expended for this. Once you get through December, we would potentially forecast several $1 million there that could be spent back into our sewer and water system that would qualify for the TWDB, correct?
Right. The TWB has to review it and ensure that whatever we spend it on meets the program qualifications and the loan requirements. So that will occur, including any interest that's available, and that's why I have that highlighted at 2.1 million. So you could, if the interest is available, it will be added to the 2.1 million and brought back to you in recommendation of award of a project.
I think that's good, and all I'm doing is just highlighting the stewardship of being able to borrow money at 0% and then bring this project in under budget with the additional scope, but then also get out there and fix some additional main breaks, line extension, whatever you have that qualifies for that water service.
So this project specifically was funded through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, which is the sewer water system side of it. It was not under the drinking water side. So it will have to be a clean water state revolving fund, a sewer project that qualifies.
That's interesting. They would fund it on the sewer side, but it's a water project.
Well, the original concept was that the meters not only provide for the water bill, but they also provide for the sewer bill.
Huh. Okay.
So meters provide for both.
Well, we look
so
forward.
they qualify for both.
Great. That's a good education piece that I'm learning, and we look forward to you guys bringing this back with an identified amount of money and some projects.
And that will be brought through staff at their recommendation.
That's great. Yeah. So thank you for answering all those. I'm good on my end. Council, anything further? Would ask for a motion on 9D.
I move to approve change order number 2 as presented on item 9D.
A second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On to 9E. Mr. Freeman, are you running this one, the professional agreement?
So we last discussed the police chief search on June 10th, and we mentioned coming back with regular updates or action steps. We initially thought the chief of police recruitment firm would fall under that 50,000 account threshold for city council approval, but we did pass it by just a little bit, so it was a good opportunity to bring this back for your approval and just an update in the process and the timeline. So last time I wasn't able to share the firm we'll be working with, but it's Public Sector Search and Consulting. They're a specialist recruitment firm. They only focus on public safety. Up until the last year, it was strictly police related. They did have their first fire chief search, so they've expanded just a little bit. They are a smaller firm, so they only take a handful of searches at one time. So we're fortunate they put their name in the hat for us because they have a very good track record of nationwide searches, over 100 searches across the U.S. Some of the recent Texas cities were Dallas, Killeen, and Irving, and they've also done the University of Texas System director for their public safety. As far as the personnel, I've got a few listed up there on the screen. Gary Peterson is the president and CEO, and he's actually going to be our project lead for our search, which he's got a 30-year career in public safety and has been doing recruitment searches ever since. His most recent was the Dallas Police and Fire Chiefs and the Seattle Police Chief search. As far as the highlights in the agreement, it's $42,500, which is the fee for the firm, and then there's additional public search, plus the search expenses. So that's the travel and the additional work they'll be doing. They'll be coming to town at least 3 times, about 6 days total on site. A large part of this process and the chief of police search is a lot of upfront communication with key stakeholders. That's going to involve interviews with the city council, members of staff, internal stakeholders. We'll also be having engagement meetings. Some of those may be virtual as well to invite the public. What qualities do you want to see in a chief? What are we looking for? They'll also have survey options, which are citywide surveys, surveying the department staff, so we get the department staff and employees to weigh in as well. Beyond that, they'll of course work on your typical profile and brochure, and then conduct the advertising campaign and the outreach to try and get people to apply for the position. They'll do all the identification of the qualified candidates. They'll screen them, see which ones meet the best for our criteria. They'll rank them and present us with the candidates for the next steps in the process. And then toward the end of the process, we'll be re-engaging with the public and the city council with as far as meet and greets, interview process. We'll have an opportunity to discuss with the firm as far as how we structure those interviews. There's been discussion about doing panelists to try and get different community members, different staff involved so they can weigh in on the candidates to help with that final interview process with the city management team. And then also wanted to update you on the timeline. We are moving a little faster than expected. I originally told council we'd probably have someone on board by January. They're proposing a 90 to 120 day process, which puts us around November. So it's possible someone could start maybe in December or potentially into January, just depending on their transition, moving from whatever department they're in to us, or if it's an internal candidate, obviously much quicker than someone having to move to town. But so it is a little bit faster than we expected, so I wanted to bring you up to speed on the potential timeline. But that's really all we have today. The packet includes the contract, the schedule that kind of lays out all the tasks. So if you want more information, the public's able to access that document and kind of see what the thought process is for the whole search. Happy to answer any questions.
There's not a compensation piece based on salary?
There is. We do have a task that we've built into their contract. They're going to help us kind of assess other departments. We've done that research ourselves as well through HR recently, but it never hurts to get their input from their nationwide experience and kind of get an idea of what that compensation package would look like.
And there will be no fees to this company based on the salary load?
No, this is a strictly the 42.5 plus expenses. That's all they get paid for the,
all right.
the
Thank
search.
you.
Yes, sir. And they do have a commitment if the person leaves after a year, they would redo the search minus the fee expenses, but that 42.500 would be covered. And they also agreed not to try and recruit whoever we hire away for any of their other searches, which is a nice bonus.
When would the clock start ticking on the timeline once we execute?
It should start here in the next couple of weeks. As soon as I get them the executed contract, we'll be getting those internal stakeholder meetings scheduled so we can start building that profile and what qualities we're looking for.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Good questions. Councilman Simpson, anything? Okay, if you guys are ready to move forward with the process, I think we're ready.
I move to award professional services agreement with Public Sector Search and Consulting for the search for City of Amarillo Chief of Police.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second on item 9E. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with a 3-0 vote. On to item 9F. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, I'm going to cover both 9F and 9G at one time, if that's all right. But Mayor, members of council, as part of today's agenda, we're taking up clarifying resolutions regarding the May 3rd and June 7th elections. These resolutions affirm that the city council did indeed canvass the results of those elections in accordance with state law, and they serve to incorporate the full set of supporting materials such as voting tabulations and certificates of election. They were part of the official record, but were not previously attached to the original canvass resolutions. These actions are consistent with Texas Election Code, Chapter 67, which outlines how election returns are canvassed and how certificates of elections are to be issued. This step ensures completeness of the record and transparency for the public. The results and outcomes remain unchanged. This simply provides additional clarity and documentation. We'll be happy to answer questions.
Questions, council, for your city manager? Okay. Item 9F is before you, and then we'll take up 9G separate.
I move to adopt resolution number 07-08-25-2 as presented.
I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second on item 9F. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Council, with no further presentation, item 9G is before you.
I move to adopt resolution number 07-08-25-3 as presented.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second on item 9G. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with a 3-0 vote. Would ask for one more motion, and we'll adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
We got a motion and a second. You're adjourned today. Thank you for everyone for participating.